好，大家好。首先欢迎大家参加今天我们举办的反诈骗讲座。这个讲座呢是由3个单位一起协办，包括美国北一女校友基金会、北加州北一女校友会以及美国原城基金会协办。今天在线上替大家服务的呢，除了我刘秀芝之外，我们还有黄大华、Grace、胡孙举、Shirley 还有 Heidi。接下来呢 Heidi 在之前呢会为我们介绍我们今天的贵宾 Miss Erin West。 OK， 那接下来的讲座我们会全程用英文进行。Welcome everyone to joining this seminar on anti-scam topics. This seminar is sponsored by 3 organizations. The first one is American Beinu Alumni Foundation. Second one is Taipei First Girl High School Alumni Association of North California, as well as Be Kind, Be Aware Foundation. Today's operation team, including myself, Shochi, Grace, Shirley, and Heidi. And of course, we have the honor to have our guest speaker, Miss Erin West. So after Erin's presentation, Grace will summarize some of the key points as a takeaway for today's seminar. We will then open the Q&A sessions towards the end. And therefore, if you have any questions, you please type it into the comment section in the YouTube. So now let me pass the podium to Heidi to introduce our guest speaker, Ms. Erin West. Please, Heidi.
Thank you, Grace. Erin West has a passion for assisting victims and has served as the Deputy District Attorney in Santa Clara County, California, for almost about 25 years. She has worked for the past 8 years with the React High-Tech Task Force, nationally known for its arrest and prosecution of SIM swapping and recovery of cryptocurrency of victims of big butchering scams. Ms. West leads the Crypto Coalition, a group of nearly 1,000 local, state, federal, and international law enforcement agents who specialize in cryptocurrency investigation. Now, let's give a big round of applause to welcome Erin West, a prominent leader in the cryptocurrency prosecution.
Thank you so much.
Please, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. It's a real treat to be here because I want to tell you about an important scam that really seems to be hitting our Asian population in a very big way. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk to you all this afternoon or evening, depending where you are. I want to talk to you about pig butchering. I'm going to share my screen. There it is. Okay. And if you haven't heard of pig butchering before, you're in for a very rude surprise. It's a very, very unfortunate crime that's happening, and I'd like to tell you more about it. But before I do, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a prosecutor in Santa Clara County, California. I work with a team of high-tech detectives from all over the Bay Area. We represent 5 counties in the Bay Area, about almost 6 million people. And in my spare time, I like to garden. This is my backyard in the summertime. I have ranunculus and I have sweet peas and I have my dahlias, which are my favorite. And the reason I'm telling you about my garden is because what I'm going to tell you about happened in my backyard last year. I'm going to tell you about 3 stories that came from my backyard. And if they're happening in my backyard, I guarantee they are also happening in your backyard. This is my cat. The first story begins on Memorial Day last year. This is my best friend, Lisa. And she is laughing because she's looking at her phone and she got this text and she says, Erin, you need to look at this text. This is so funny. And the text says, hi, Julie. I'm reaching out to say hi. I hope you are doing well. Happened to be driving around Maple Park and thought of you. All the best, Bob. Now, you know my friend's name is Lisa, not Julie. So you know that this isn't meant for her. And Lisa just thinks it's funny. But I'm concerned when I see it because I know exactly what it is because I've just been learning about it from my task force. And I know that it's the newest scam that is taking over. It's already taken over China and Taiwan, and now it's hitting the United States. The way it begins is just like this. There are 4 different ways the scammers will reach out to victims. And one of them is through something that looks like a wrong number text message, or they will drop into your DMs on Instagram. They'll reach out on LinkedIn, or they'll reach out on a dating site. So any opportunity they have to meet a new person is exactly what they will do. Let me take you to another one. They have a number of different techniques that they use. This one is, Dr. David, my dog is still very slow and won't eat dog food. Can you make an appointment for me? So again, they're looking to pull on heartstrings because who wouldn't be concerned about a dog who needs an appointment? And so that's what they're doing, is they're looking for someone to respond so that they can start a conversation with them. And as you sit here today, you think, well, I might not fall for that. But you might if they use the right technique to get you to respond. You want them to get help for this dog. And so you might respond. And the next thing you know, you are involved in a conversation with them. And you'd be surprised, as we still continue to come out of COVID, how many people are lonely and are receptive to an online friend. So now we're at 4th of July and we're back in my backyard. You can see Lisa's there and my family. And I received this text message. This text message is from my friend Allison. 4th of July was a 3-day weekend. And on Sunday of that 3-day weekend at 9:15 p.m., a friend of mine reaches out to find out if I work on crypto fraud cases. And I tell her I do. And then she wants to ask questions and she wants to call me. And at that particular time on an evening of a 3-day weekend, you know it's important. And I knew even before the conversation began what she was going to tell me. And sure enough, she began a story telling me about something that happened to her son. And I knew that her son had met an attractive woman online and that they began a conversation and that she asked him to move that conversation to WhatsApp. So what's happening here is the scammer doesn't want to stay on the websites that are looking for scammers like this type of scam. And so they want to move the victim to a platform that's not being monitored for that purpose. So they move to WhatsApp. And the way this scam begins is that over the next at least 30 days, they will begin a very targeted, very manipulative course of getting to know the victim. And they have a couple of objectives in doing that. Number one, they want to know exactly the extent of how much money that victim has, because this is called pig butchering. And that term itself can be offensive, but that term came from the scammers. It originated in China, and the name is Sha Zhu Pan, which loosely translated means pig butchering. And the reason they're using that term is because they're fattening up the pig, the victim, but even more than that, they're going to eat that victim from snout to tail. They are going to eat every piece of that victim. They are going to take everything that victim has. And that's what makes this scam different than so many we've seen in the past, where it's, well, we'll take a little bit more. This is, we're going to find out from the outset exactly how much money this person has, and then we're going to take it all. And that's what they do. And the way they do that, over this 30 days, they're building this relationship where they're finding out how much the victim has, but they're also building a trusted friendship. And that's what's really key about this whole thing, is that they're building a relationship where the victim is having wonderful feelings that they haven't had in a long time. They're spending hours with this scammer, and the scammer is hitting all the right buttons. They have scripts that are specially designed depending on who you are. If you are a 30-year-old male software engineer, they know what to talk to you about. If you are a 50-year-old divorcee with a teenage son, they know what to talk to you about. And if you are a 70-year-old man who's just lost his wife, they know what to talk to you about. And that's what's happening. That's what they're doing. It's highly manipulative. It's an industrial strength, industrially planned technique. They are finding out how much money you have, and then they are building this trusted relationship so that they can then talk to you about how together you can make lots of money. The way it works is our scammer will show you over that period of 30 days or more a very enviable lifestyle. They will show themselves traveling in wonderful places, eating good food, living a really nice life. And then ultimately will say, hey, you know how I'm able to afford this? I could help you. My uncle taught me how to invest in cryptocurrency, and he would be willing to help you too. And because our victims are so tied in with their scammer and they trust them and they've seen this lifestyle, it's believable. And the way they introduce them is a very slow, methodical process. They get the victim to give just a little bit of whatever a little bit is to that victim, whether it's $2,000 or $10,000. They make an investment and they think they're making an investment. But really what they're doing is they're taking their US dollars and they are wiring them to an exchange like Coinbase. Once it gets to Coinbase, they are converting it into cryptocurrency, and the scammer is hand feeding them exactly how to make it, how to get it done. And then once they put it into cryptocurrency, they are moving it into what they believe is this investment, and they have every reason to believe it because these scammers are masterful and they've built beautiful websites that look just like any other investment website. And our victims invest, but really that money's going directly to the scammer. And when they make that investment, they can look the next day on this website and they see that their investment has increased exponentially. And so their $5,000 is now $7,000. Is now 9,000, is now 12,000. And they began to believe that they too can become incredibly wealthy. And as days turn into months, they then add more and more money. They liquidate their IRAs, all of their retirement accounts. They liquidate children's college funds. And ultimately, they put every penny they have into this investment. And by the time it's over, they've put millions in. And what we see then is that that's when the scammer really seals the deal and says, well, if you want to withdraw any money, you have to pay the taxes on it. And from there, they have to get new money to put into it. And oftentimes they are cleaned out of money at that point. And so that's when they get loans against their house. They do reverse mortgages. They borrow from family members. And by the time it's done, not only have they lost every penny they have, but they're in over their head with all of their mortgages. And they find themselves 100% fully devastated, absolutely wrecked. So back to my backyard, it's interesting to see how people that we know, people in our own social circles, can find themselves victims of this threat. And I'll give you an example. This is a friend of mine from high school, well, actually from elementary school, and he reached out to me. He lives on the East Coast, and he says he's met someone online, and that person wants him to start talking to him on Signal. And what do I think about that? So Signal's just like WhatsApp or Telegram. The scammer is wanting them to move off the platform and move on to a unmonitorable encrypted means of communication. And so I say, well, Signal is good, but don't invest in crypto if she asks you to. And as I'm typing it, I'm kind of laughing to myself, but I'm like, oh, wow, wait, no, this is what I think it is. And I say, is she outside the US? And he says, oh, yes, she's from Myanmar. and I'll tell you why that makes me think crazy, is because here's what I know. By the time I read that from my friend, I've done the deep dive into pig butchering. I know what pig butchering is, and I know that he's a victim of pig butchering, or is about to be. That's the intent. And I've done the deep dive so that I know what's really happening. And I think it's important to understand the entirety of this scam, because when this happens and when we read about what's happening to our victims, we might think, wow, we hate these scammers. This is horrible what's happening. But what we don't understand is that the way these scams are happening is with victims on both sides. And let me explain what I mean. So I want to take you back to 2020, before COVID. Before COVID, there was a backpacking town called Sihanoukville in Cambodia, a beautiful seaside, quiet town. And Chinese organized crime began building casino towers on the water. And they were building these massive structures that included compounds within them that were meant to be used for online gambling. And ultimately, they decided that would, there was basically a clampdown on online gambling, and ultimately they couldn't use it for that purpose. And COVID comes and people aren't traveling, and so they decide, well, let's think of what else we could do with these towers. So they turn them into massive boiler room scam factories where they are doing these scams on an industrial level. And how are they staffing them? They are staffing them with human trafficked victims. Now, I've told you that they're masterful. I've told you that they operate like a slick business, and that's because they're a massive syndicate. And so not only do they have beautiful looking websites, they have beautiful looking websites that are meant to bring in the employees that will do this work. They're advertising for HR, for sales, for people who can do graphic design, and they make it look like a real job. They say, we will give you a plane ticket to Bangkok. We will provide you with room and board. You'll be able to send money home. And so victims are coming in thinking that they will be able to have a pretty comfortable job. And when they get here, they find this. Their tickets, their passports are taken. They are bused into Cambodia, into another country, where they are housed in compounds that are covered, that are guarded with barbed wire and men carrying AK-47s. They're not allowed to leave, and they're required to work hours on end conducting these scams. This is a photograph of one of the scam factories in Cambodia. And this is a photograph taken from one of the scammers who sent it out of a work day, where these are all the cases that they're working on the daily, because it's a lot of work to keep up with 3 to 4 hours of chatting with someone every day and knowing what time of day it is, where they live, and making it sound real and natural. And that's what's happening to our victims. And they are not allowed to leave, and they are made to hit quotas. And if they don't make quotas, they are injured, and they are hit with electric tasers and baseball bats. And this problem is massive. I can't say any louder how much money is being transferred. So every year the FBI reports on the amount of the loss that is coming out of online scams, and they say $10 billion. But the number that matters here is the number attributable to, in the bottom corner, by victim loss, and it says investment, and it puts it at $3.3 billion. That's pig butchering. Now, $3.3 billion, and this is taken from people who report to the FBI. And we know that this crime in particular is embarrassing for victims. They find themselves humiliated, and they don't want to come forward. So AARP tells us that usually only 1 in 40 actually report. So it just shows you how low this number is. But even if it's 1 in 10 report, that puts it at $33 billion that's being transferred to Chinese organized crime. So let's talk about that for a minute, how that's working. That is household by household. That is people you know. It's people in your city have lost their entire generation of wealth and are transferring it into the hands of organized crime, never to be seen again. It's massive and it's scary, and it should be scary. Why I'm concerned in particular, if you look at the bottom of this, look at my state, California. We're responsible for $2 billion of that. Of the 10 billion that's gone to online fraud, 2 billion. And I'll tell you, most of that is pig butchering, because there's a lot of wealth in California. We're a good target. And we've got our tech people here, and we've got expensive real estate, and that's where this money is coming from. And California is over 2 times Florida, almost 3 times New York. It's a huge problem for my community, and that's why I took particular notice to this crime. Let's talk about the effect on victims. So a gentleman came to us. He had lost over $1 billion and $1 million. And when we first started seeing these crimes, we saw lots of $300,000 losses, $500,000 losses. But then even more today, we're starting to see 1.5, 1.7. I spoke to a woman yesterday who lost 3.2 million. It's whatever your net worth is, that's the amount of your loss. That's what they're doing here. And so this gentleman was a firstborn son of an immigrant family. He felt responsible for his family, and he got involved in a pig butchering scam. He was speaking to a woman named Jessica, and when it all fell apart, he nearly lost his sanity, and he checked himself into a mental health facility because he was so distraught. And that's not uncommon anymore. People are just absolutely being crushed. And I want to show you a little bit about what that looks like. So I'll give you a minute to read this. This is an actual transcript between Cy, my victim, and Jessica, the scammer in this case. And I'll be quiet for a minute so you can take a look at it. And I think what's so scary here is that it's illustrative of the idea that Jessica has taken the time to really get to know Cy because of your father. You have Jessica knows the touch buttons, the hot buttons for Cy, and uses them against him. And when he says to her directly, if I lose the money, I will suicide. And even knowing that, she pressures him to go forward. And Cy is not the only one who is having a difficult mental time. This is the photograph that was used to lure in a man in Minnesota who later killed himself. And when I found out about that suicide about a week later, I went to Facebook and I looked up her profile, and she was still there. That's her. She was still there talking to men. And I am proud to say that when I reached out to Meta, they took it down within 90 minutes on a Sunday. But it just shows you the depth of that this crime is ending in tragedy. And he's not the only one who's committed suicide. He's the first one I was directly involved with, and now I'm very familiar with plenty of suicide attempts and suicide as a result of this. And it's not slowing down. This is a picture. I'm out to dinner with my boyfriend not long ago, and he picks up his phone and he's like, well, here's another one, because it's constant, because it is a constant barrage, and it's constant because it's so effective. It's working so well. They're taking all of our money, and nobody is stopping them. And they're getting worse. I was a sexual assault prosecutor for 8 years, so I am particularly sensitive when they are using a child as bait. And I look at this approximately 9-year-old child with lipstick on and am offended that they would stoop to that level to try and get interest in what they're doing. I think it's worth noting that victims are having a difficult time getting help. that law enforcement is not totally ready to help them with this crime. And once they realize how law enforcement isn't being very helpful, they reach out online and they try and find investigation companies to help them. And I have to tell you that these are just a few of the investigation companies that will charge our victims $10, $20, $30,000 to help them, and that they cannot help them. The only people that can help them are the police. And so this is just another way that our victims are losing more money to victims. And so should this happen to anyone you know, the best advice to them is report it to the FBI, and I will have the link at the end of this presentation, and report it to your local police department. Don't trust anyone that says they can get your money back for you. And so I want to tell you, in the few minutes I have left, I want to tell you what my team did. We knew that we weren't going to be able to make arrests of organized crime over there. So what we did know how to do is we know how to trace cryptocurrency. And so for victims in our jurisdiction that came in quickly enough, we were able to trace their money and freeze it and get it back to them. And we were among the first in the nation trying this new technique. And to date, we've been able to help 19 victims get their money back. But more than that, we feel like we've been able to work directly with victims to let them know that someone cares and someone wants to hear them and someone wants to help them. And we've been doing it over and over. And because we were successful, that gave us a little bit of great press. And with the great press became a realization that not everybody was experiencing that same situation, that not all local law enforcement was ready for this. And so when we realized that, we decided as a team that our mission would be to teach local and state law enforcement how to do the work we were doing so that victims nationwide had a place to go to get that done, to get help. So this is my contact information. The top one is my email address. If you are a victim of this and I can help you, please reach out. And please report to ic3.gov. What that is FBI's contact information where you let FBI know what's happening. Now, I want to be very honest with you. You are not likely to hear back from FBI. This is more of a means for FBI to determine how big the extent of the crime is, and that's why it's important to report to them. That's my LinkedIn below. I talk a lot on LinkedIn probably every day about pig butchering and a different aspect of it all the time. And so if you are a victim or know victims, that's a great resource for what's happening with regard to pig butchering. So it was my great pleasure to be here today, and I'm happy to stand by and answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your story and your advice. So now let's turn the podium now to Grace, because Grace, might have a story, for us.
Yes, thank you, Erin, for sharing the pig butchering horrible stories that's happening right now. And let's not undermine some of the scams that may not take it all, okay, but they're still popular outside of California. So pig butchering is not the only thing. And let's talk about what are the top 5 commonly seen scams targeting at seniors. The first one is government impersonation. What does that mean is they pretend they're coming from IRS or Social Security or even Medicare, and they say that you owe the government money or you've been audited. You need to address this issue immediately, or you might be subject to severe penalty or even being arrested. So they try to scare you. The second type is sweepstakes. They call and say, wow, you have the lucky winner of a big lottery or some big prizes. In order to claim your winnings, you have to send in money for tax withholding purposes, similar to the the prior case that Erin had talked about. So there goes another chunk of thousands and thousands of dollars. And the third commonly seen problem is robocalls. What does that mean is that we often receive voice phone calls or voice recording that sounds like a machine. There's a pause at the very beginning and then start talking. So a common thing is like, can you hear me? And then if the victim answers yes, and the call just might end right there. All they wanted to do is to record your voice and then use that against you towards your credit card companies or other financial institutions. So this one is a bit concerning given the rise and the rise of AI and its continued success or advancement, let's put it this way. So with AI, the next evolving scam might be video calling, and they want to get your face, they want to get your voice, and then they can make a fake video out of you, or may not be you, it could be your grandchildren for that matter, and then they use those videos against their grandparents or parents. So let's be mindful of this robocalls or automatic dialing into voice or video calling. The fourth kind is called computer tech support. I think seniors are more prone to fall into this category. As you are deeply involved in your, digital life, you may get a pop-up message on your phone or on your PC says, okay, this is Apple or this is Microsoft, that we detected that your phone or your PC had been hacked. Please call this number and we need to help you. Okay, so you call. And then they gain access to your machine, and then they just go downhill from there. And surprisingly, according to the FBI reported cases, the total amount of loss amounted to $238 million in this category in year 2021. So I know seniors are, usually not as tech savvy. So let's be mindful and also alert people around us. And the fifth kind is the grandparent scam. So they manipulate the grandparents, right? So with AI, I think this is even more concerning. So you may get a video call or a voice call, say, grandma, guess who this is? And, this is a grandson, let's say. I got into an emergency situation, like a car accident. I need money to settle with the other party. And please don't tell my parents. Don't tell anyone. Or in some cases, the scammer may even pretend they're the police on site. They're trying to help out your kid, okay? Or a doctor that your grandson is in the hospital. So in any case, those are the top 5, but they are not limited to 5, okay? So other popular scams towards seniors that many of us have seen every day is first kind is the romance scams. All of a sudden, some attractive young man, young woman show up in your Facebook or LinkedIn, okay, and wanting to connect with you. And you know nothing about, you've never seen them, okay, so just strange. The other one is the COVID. They play into the COVID and they try to be very helpful to seniors. And they offer to, give you vaccine at home, and then in return they ask for your personal information or even, fraud into your Medicare. And the third kind of investment scams, right? You heard a lot from Erin earlier about pig butchering. So the use of cryptocurrency, whether to invest in it or ask you to put in your investment via Bitcoin, is a major, major red flag. Last but not least is phishing. This we get a lot, and you get emails or text messages that appear to be from your bank or your own credit card company. And I got one from Zelle that looks exactly like Zelle. And even USPS, I just got one from postal office that I have a package that had incomplete information. The package cannot be delivered. So they're coming from Walmart, from Home Depot, from all the brands that you're familiar with, or government agencies, or like post office. So they request you to fill in information, or they scare you that your credit card had been stolen, and you need to reset, your profiles, and therefore they got all of your credentials, and they use your credential to steal more money out of your other financial accounts. So those are some of the commonly seen ones, and certainly not limited to it. Next, I want to share with you all 2 identity theft cases in video. And the first one is done by Wall Street Journal. And I know in United States, probably more than 67% of us own iPhones. And this video is about iPhone passcode that we live with every day. And it's how easy you could lose your entire digital life by someone overlooking at your passcode. And another one is a fake credit card reader. So at this time, I will unshare and have Shouzhi help me play the videos on her part. Okay, Shouzhi.
Yeah, so let me share screen. Okay. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
Outside a bar in New York City. And my phone was stolen out from my hand. Within 3 minutes, I was locked out of my own Apple ID. And within 24 hours, I noticed that there were thousands of dollars being taken out of my bank account.
People have been reaching out to me with stories like this lately. Their iPhones are stolen, and all the protections and security they thought they had didn't matter. Bank accounts emptied, credit cards opened, no more access to photos, contacts, and anything in their iCloud. Their digital lives gone. How? It all leads back to the theft of the iPhone's passcode. It turns out that code that can unlock your phone can also help someone else unlock your entire digital life.
Okay.
Okay, and play the next one.
Now let's share the other one.
Yeah, be careful, y'all. Look. See that shit? You see where we at? We on Golden State.
Okay. Those 2 are those are only 2 examples. But at your leisure, at your free time, I highly recommend that you finish watching this iPhone passcode video. At the end, it tells you how to protect yourselves, because we often save your password in some of the browsers, right? Going into your bank accounts and this and that. And once they change your Apple ID, okay, you cannot claim you are the person anymore, so it just goes, spiral down from there. So it's very important to watch that video, please. And I highly recommend you all do that. So next I will continue with our recap. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so next, let's talk about what protection can we do? How can we protect ourselves from becoming a victim or being scammed? So first and foremost is know about the current scams, and kudos to you all that you are here to hear all the current ones going around the world. And they keep changing, and therefore you need to keep up with it. The second one is, as Erin said before, the major red flag is when you are being asked to send the money or Bitcoins to someone you don't know, or you think you know. Just when you're asked to send money, you should have a second doubt. The third one is too good to be true. Okay, don't be too greedy. You face those too good to be true stories. Okay, here's a low risk, high return investment opportunity, or you win a big lottery, or some attractive young man, young woman all of a sudden want to be friends with you. It's things like that. the fourth bullet says, the best defense against phishing is to verify the alleged person or organization before clicking on anything. Okay, so if it's from your grandson, call your grandson. If it's from Bank of America, from Zelle, call Zelle. Try to contact your financial institution before you do anything. Here's an alarming example. Okay, some people say, okay, I checked the domain name. The email did come from BOA. But unfortunately, look at how the A is being typed in there. The blue one is the real one, and the red one is the fake website. So it's very, easy to fall for it. So it's better to verify directly with the organization or the loved ones. Okay, and next one is never give out your personal information over the phone during calls that are not initiated by you. So it's not that you bought an airline ticket and you need to pay by credit card, but it's someone calling you and then asking you to give out all the information on the phone, and please don't. And lastly is that please Google how to block unknown callers on your cell phone. I know iPhone and Android phones have different mechanisms, but you could silence all these calls so you don't even get into trouble because they don't even ring. Okay, it tells you possible scams right there. Okay, so those are some of the basic tips that we want to share with you. And last but not least is that what can you do if you suspect you're being scammed? Where do I report? And here's a website, the government website that will take you to a bunch of questions. And this is the site that asks you what kind of scam it is about, and then it'll direct you to where to report. So commonly, if it's financially involved, as Erin said, first call your local police. Secondly, is call your bank. As Heidi shared with us in the previous seminar, that you might be able to stop payment within the first 24 hours. So time is essence. When in doubt, call immediately. Third is to report on the FBI site, the IC3 site that Erin referred to earlier. And Heidi also had a great slide in our first seminar. It is in the QA section under question number 1. So, if you want to go back to our previous video, please do so. It's at about the 54-second spot is where she talked about where you should report. And then another important thing is that often you feel embarrassed, to tell people, oh, I'm so stupid to fall into the trap. But, when in doubt, honestly, openly discuss with your family members, don't make the damage any bigger. Okay. So those are some of the tips that we want to takeaways we want to share with you all, audience. Thank you for coming. And then next we'll go into the QA section.
All right. So I think we have a wonderful discussion or at least material from both Erin and Grace. Really, this is a fantastic material and information for everybody to be aware. So we have several questions here from the audience. Maybe I can start with the first one. This is for Erin. Erin, is that you have established a React team, right, in California. How about other states? I mean, do you know of other states which have a similar type of organization that they can reach out to if they become victims?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that I did. So there aren't I think React is a great model because it brings people together that have similar skills to do this work. There are other teams like this across the United States, usually involving Secret Service, and so that can be helpful. There aren't a ton of them yet, but what I can tell you is that because I noticed that we're not well united across the US. So I started something called the Crypto Coalition, and I started inviting members of local law enforcement to be part of it. And now we're up to 1,000 members of local, state, federal, and international, including Taiwan. and including Australia and Nigeria and South Africa. It's a great coalition of people doing this type of work. So you can always reach out to me, and I can run it through the coalition and see if there's anybody there who might live in your area who might be able to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, since this is sort of become like an international project, right? There will be a coalition across the nations will become important. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you so much. And then the next question is coming from also YouTube, and that is that based on Erin's your personal experience, so what is the percentage of the scam cases being prosecuted, and what are the results? In other words, do we recover the funds or the damage that are caused by this scam? Or
yeah, I think there are two different pieces to this. There is, can we arrest the people who are doing this, and can we get money back to victims? And I think what we're finding at the moment is there really has been no arrests of these people who are working overseas. And hopefully that'll change this year. That is something that we're looking into with my team, that there has to be a way to hold these people accountable. But second, so when we were concerned about our ability to do that, our first priority was to our victims. And so we spent time with our local victims trying to see whether we could recover money for them. And so we've recovered money and gotten it back to 19 victims so far. We have other victims that we've recovered money for but have not been able to get back to them yet. It's in progress. And I would say that it's probably, I don't know, maybe at this point, 10 to 15% of people who reach out to us were able to help. So I know that I want to set reasonable expectations that it's difficult to get your money back because the money is moving so quickly on the blockchain. It's difficult to get it. So it goes back to something Grace was saying, and about you need to report, even if you might be embarrassed. If you want to have any chance of getting any recovery, you need to do a quick report so that we can get in there quickly.
Right. Okay, great, wonderful. So maybe we'll give Erin a little break, and we have a question for Grace, and that is the question is, so which particular iPhone hack video that you talk about? In other words, where can they find the video?
Yes, I have posted the link under the comments right below the question already. And please go there. Yeah, if you openly search iPhone password, something about iPhone password risks or something, you will find it too.
Mm-hmm.
The link is in under comments. So for those who are interested, I highly recommend you watch that, and you know how to protect your iPhone better, even if it got stolen, right? You wouldn't run into the situation like that lady.
Okay, good, wonderful. Then there's another question also related to the cell phone. Okay, so I'm going to read the question because I couldn't quite understand the exact questions. Okay, it says, does an app on cell phone called Who's Call help? Are you familiar with this app called Who's Call? No.
There are many apps that can block unknown callers. Even your carrier does that. Verizon, T-Mobile, they all have their own. iPhone has it itself. So there are many ways. You just need to turn it on. I don't think you absolutely need a third-party app to do so. But certainly there are many apps, and you can usually, how I judge an app is by looking at how many people used it. Some are in millions, some are in hundreds and hundreds of thousands versus 2,000. Okay, and then how they rate it. They gave it 4.5 stars, 5 stars, or they gave it 1 star. Okay, you will know by public ratings. But as I said, your carriers have that capability. You do not, your phone has it too. You don't need to rely on a third party app.
Okay, great, wonderful. Then we have questions related to cryptocurrency. So Okay. So one of the question is, since a lot of those, scams are through, induce you or entice you to invest in cryptocurrency. So shall we avoid, investing in cryptocurrency altogether, just to be safe, on the safe side? What do you think, Erin?
I think cryptocurrency, that some people think it's a great idea. Other people don't think it's for them. So I don't want to comment really on crypto, but I think that what I would comment on is any investment where you don't feel 100% like you understand what's happening, then that is an investment you should not be making. So I think that the problem in these cases are that our victims are led into something that they don't totally understand, and they're trusting someone else. So I would say that anytime you're making a major investment, you need to understand what you're doing.
Yeah, totally agree. Right, because a lot of people don't even know what is, cryptocurrency is, what is the intrinsic value? Because a lot of people can argue, there's no intrinsic value, for any of those, cryptocurrency or the NFT.
Right.
So therefore, if you don't understand, why would you even consider investment, right, in the first place? Okay, wonderful.
Agree.
Yeah. And so I think that's pretty much, cover a lot of the question that we have. Yeah, and one person actually made a comment, he said that he believed that the victims of the crypto scams are partly to blame. Greed is at play here. Crypto is just not for regular people. Stop being greedy and the scammer won't be able to reach you. So that's that person's comment.
Yeah, as I said earlier, right? All those too good to be true cases. That's where you need to be very careful.
Right. You need to know what you're investing. Correct. Okay. So I think that's pretty much cover everything that we have so far from the audience, and that we really appreciate both of you giving this very educational seminars.
Grace, I appreciate you. You hit some of the major ones that I'm seeing all the time. So thank you very much for getting the word out there about those.
Yes. Yeah. Our purpose is to raise awareness, and we need to stay current with them, right? The scammers keep changing their games.
Yep.
And don't think that you know all, but there's something new is coming, like the pig butchery. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right.
Okay, great. So
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, pretty good in terms of controlling our time and content. Thank you so much again, for all of you.
Thank you.
Have a great
bye-bye
to everyone.